Well, the MAGA United States Supreme Court can't help themselves but to bend over backwards to help Donald Trump. And this time they are supporting Virginia and its Republican MAGA governor purging the rolls of voters right before the election, even if it means that actual American citizens will have their right to vote thrown into the trash can. You're on the New Legal AF YouTube channel. I'm Michael Popok at The Intersection, and we need to talk about this new ruling. Now, a couple of days ago, I told you to Judge Childs in the Northern District of Virginia, a federal judge, had a full evidentiary hearing and determined that the state of Virginia had violated federal law, that there is a federal law on the books since 1993, the National Voter Registration Act, which provides that within 90 days of an election, there's a hands-off quiet period. That states who are inclined to try to help the party that's in power against the party that's out of power, they had a sticky little tendency of purging the voter rolls, mainly of their opponents, an opposing party, and then they sorted out later, oh, sorry, your vote was thrown in the trash can and your registration was thrown in the trash can. So sorry about that. We'll get you next election, right? When things matter, like who was going to control their House or their Senate or the president, the presidential race or anything like that. And so in 1993, around the time of the era of Bill Clinton, Congress got together and said, we better have a new law about that. Within 90 days, no purging at all. So you had that on the books. And Judge Childs said, your plan to take 1,800 or 1,600 voters off the voter rolls because you claim them to be non-citizens based on a cursory review of the Department of Motor Vehicle records in your state. Oh, has anybody seen their own DMV record? Good luck. So now you're basically putting the Department of Motor Vehicle in charge of voting. That is, think about that proposition the next time you're waiting to register your car or to get a driver's license for somebody in your life. Okay. So the judge was also concerned. She said, how many people, she said to the Biden administration, you've done the math, how many people from there have you determined were improperly removed from the rolls and they are actually American citizens? And the Biden administration said 40 to 50. She said, that's 40 to 50 too many. Stop the purge. Stop the purge. We'll deal with this on the other side of the election. But right now, I don't like your process. I don't like the lack of integrity of your process. I don't like the fact that there's no validation of any or corroboration of any of this information. And that implicitly, you've outsourced voting confirmation to the Department of Motor Vehicles. That alone should have denied it. That went up to the Fourth Circuit, which is the appellate court that sits in Virginia, federal, over Judge Childs, and they supported her and affirmed her decision by and large. Then went up on an emergency application to the United States Supreme Court. Who was waiting first? Chief Justice Roberts, because he's the duty judge that sits over the Fourth Circuit. And he said, well, I'll have I can make this decision on my own, but I'll have the entirety of the court make this decision. Yeah, because we keep calling out the shadow docket and that they're doing everything in the dark. So now they're doing everything, at least so we can see it. And out came a 1.5 paragraph order. But think about the import of this. In the 1 paragraph order, they said to Judge Childs in the Fourth Circuit, you got it wrong, at least for now, and we're going to stay your order, which stayed the purge. That's a little bit confusing. Let me try it this way. The trial court judge and the lower appellate court said to Virginia, stop. Don't purge. Rolls of voters are not the polls. We'll deal with it on the other side. There's laws in place to protect against voter fraud. If you vote when you're an illegal or you're a non-citizen and you do that, you can be prosecuted and convicted. Just as an example, for Georgia, it's sort of a neighboring state in the region to Virginia, just did an audit of the 8.2 million people that voted during the Georgia election in 2020. Do you know how many non-citizens voted out of 8 million? 12 in total. Right. And they weren't even all voting. Half were just registered, never voted, and the other half voted. And they're all getting prosecuted. Okay? But it's 0.0002% of a problem. That's not a problem. That's an excuse to disenfranchise real Americans, which is what we just saw the Supreme Court do. Now, the Supreme Court, you would think, was on the horns of a dilemma. It had a court-created principle versus a federal law that it had to try to reconcile. We don't know what they did because it's only 1 paragraph. They said, we're going to stay your stay. We're going to stop your stay. We'll deal with it on the other side of the election. If we don't take up this appeal in full with full briefing, we will lift our stay, and Judge Giles' order can go into place, stopping the future purges, I guess. If we take the case and hear it, whatever our ruling is our ruling. 3 people dissented, of course, the center left, the moderates, the Democrats, Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. We don't have their opinion. It just says they would not have issued the stay. The rest, of course, is the MAGA 6. They issued the stay. Now, you watch the Supreme Court over the last couple of days sort of pick and choose where they want to get involved and where they don't. I mean, I just did a hot take the other day about maybe they did something to benefit Kamala Harris, because they would not allow RFK Jr. at the last minute to come off the ballot in Wisconsin and Michigan, where he's afraid that he's going to suck and siphon off votes from Donald Trump. He doesn't want that to happen. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, it's too late. Too late. We can't put little stickers on the ballot to take your name off. You're staying on. You know, this is the same guy, RFK Jr., that wanted to stay on in New York because he wanted to siphon votes away from Kamala Harris. And I think the Supreme Court's like, oh, is this RFK Jr. again? Bobby, no. Sit down, go in the corner, go eat paste, put a dunce cap on. And that's sort of the way I've been reading the United States Supreme Court rulings here. Now, this recent one is troubling for many reasons. The fact that they've got the federal law that I started with, the National Voter Rights Act, and then they've got this doctrine that they love to use when they say they don't want to get involved with politics, but they actually do. It's called the Purcell Doctrine. It's named after a case. And under the Purcell Doctrine, as you get closer and closer to an election, it should give federal courts more and more pause and pump more and more brakes for them not to get involved, because they don't want federal courts involved in the political process directly. But they often violate that when they feel like it. So they use that principle when there's a racist map that's been created, that's been gerrymandered to cut all the blacks out of power. They'll say, well, we're so close to the election. Under the Purcell Doctrine, which is completely made up by the courts themselves, oh, we just can't get involved. We'll deal with that map another time, even though the other time disenfranchises a group of people right now. But in other times when they want to get involved with something, they ignore the Purcell Doctrine. They jump right in. Related to these various things. So I think this was an easy call for Judge Giles. It should have been for the Supreme Court. There's a federal law, the National Voter Registration Act, that says within 90 days, you can't screw around with the rolls. That's the quiet period. And this systemic change to the rolls in Virginia is within the 90-day period. It should be really done. And the Supreme Court should have been concerned, but seems to have not been, by the fact that real Americans who wanted to vote and register properly just had their votes tossed, relying on the Department of Motor Vehicle. We'll continue to follow all of it right here on the Midas Touch Network and right here on the new channel, Legal AF, the YouTube channel. There's a subscribe button. It's a big blue oval. Hit it. We need your help to build this channel. And the bigger we get, the more your voice is heard at this intersection of law and politics. If you like what I'm doing, I'm Michael Popok. You can follow me on Legal AF, the podcast, and the Midas Touch Network. Legal AF, the YouTube channel, where I'm doing all my work 5-6 times a day and bringing on some other contributors at the intersection of law and politics. So until my next hot take, my next exclusive contribution here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.